Oh boy, we're ready to go on our trip and start loading up, and guess what? Those are supposed to come out. Open the door and it comes out. I know the chassis battery is good, which is what drives this, because I just replaced it. And this is a switch on the Phoenix Cruiser. Don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear a solenoid hitting, so the juice is there. Alright, time to troubleshoot. Okay, so welcome to the underside. This is the 4-way connector that powers the step. And I've taken the tape off of it. Usually this is all taped up. And let's see if I can do this one-handed. There we go. And I'm not going to go through the entire troubleshooting procedure because that's outlined very well in other videos by other talented people. Not to say I'm talented, but let's just say it's already done. But the pigtail plugs in here, and you can perform various tests. All you need is a voltmeter. You can check your power, the door switch, the override, the ignition override, the step control, all that kind of cool stuff here. You do need an external battery, which happens to be right there, the house batteries. I just ran a wire from the positive, put a wire nut on it so it wouldn't short on anything, left it in here, took a wire from the negative and put it up here. Oops, there it is. That's the ground wire, green wire, ground wire to the control unit, which is this thing. Now that's solid state. Probably not going to go bad. So I did all that, and this connector is fine. There's power where it should be, on and off, ignition on and off, door open and close, step control on and off. So we know that's good. This is the power to the motor. The motor's right here. That's the arm. Here's the motor over here. And the connector is back up in here where you can't see it, but if you give it, pulling on the connector only, give it a little pull, it comes out. Okay, I put a voltmeter on here, and here, had my lovely bride open the door, close the door, and I got 12.5 volts and no volts, as it should be. So I know I have power to the motor. And of course, before doing any work on this thing, unplug this, remove the power from the step, because it's heavy, and if you're sitting here like this, it'll come down and it'll crush your head or your chest or some other valuable part of your body that you don't want to lose. So let's not do that. Now, the problem is, I have looked online and said, how do you retract the steps when they don't work? Well, there's just no real good advice. They say, oh, take the little pin that's in there and just remove the cotter pin. Well, guess what? That silly little pin? Yeah, that's it sitting back up in there. Let's see. Can you see it? There it is. Okay, so there's the pin at the end of the red wire I'm using as a pointer. That has a cotter pin, and it just slides out this way. And it has a cotter pin on the other end that holds it in place. Well, guess what? There is so much force on that, there is like no way that you're going to pull that out, even if you could ever get your fingers back in there to the cotter pin. Why this was not installed, the cotter pin on this side, who knows? You can't force this arm to go around, because when the motor activates, it goes this way, which releases the steps. These things are locked in place. There's nothing else to undo. I certainly can't take the whole things off by lowering the whole step unit. Don't want to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do, these 4 little bolts, let's see, there's one back in here too, hold the gearbox and the motor in place. And my rationale is, thinking to myself, if I loosen this take this whole gearbox down, the steps will retract with it, and I can get to the cotter pin, I can release it, and then I can get the motor off to test the motor. So let's do that. As it turns out, it happens to be I'm using a 7/16 socket on a little 1/4-inch ratchet handle. I did squirt a little WD-40 on the 2 bolts, excuse me, 2 nuts, just to make them easier to loosen, and we'll do that. So lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. In full disclosure, I did break that loose first, but still, I only used a 1/4-inch handle and I was able to get those loose. All right, I'm going to loosen them up. So I'm thinking we're going to have success. I just backed these off a few turns. You can see that one's loose. This one still has a little pressure on it, but watch the steps. Watch the gap down there. Oh, happy day. Okay, I'm going to finish taking that off. Okay, so here's the progress. I have the 2 nuts off here and here. You can see I've got a lot of play. And now here's your practical tip. Follow this nut. When this one is tight, this one is free, and there's just no way to get your fingers in there to spin that. There was no pressure on it, so and the socket would only go like 1 click of the ratchet. So I took this one off. That leaves pressure on this one, and now I should be able to spin it and put some pressure on it. And lo and behold, it seems to be working. Well, guess what? Since we've lowered this a little bit, the inglorious cotter pin, which is on the end of that pin, is right there, and I think I may be able to reach it when I get my light out of the way. Light is just for your viewing pleasure, but I'm going to get that out of the way, and you can see it's when the strips are loose, there's no pressure on this, so I should be able to back it out easily. We'll try. Just proof that I was able to get my pliers in there. See, that's the cotter pin right there. That's me manipulating it. And let's see if I can snag the loop on there. Give it a yank. Give it another yank. Give it a bigger yank. Okay, be back in a minute. Success. Ha 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 ha. Now, that little pin, I can get it from my hand this way. Yeah, see, there it is right there. I'm going to lift up on the steps. I'm going to push it through like that. I'm going to take my handy dandy needle noser pliers. And yes, I am under the steps, but there's no power on them. It's just gravity. And I can push them up and down without any problem. So don't worry about the weight. Yeah, I know this is probably really exciting to watch right now, but I'm going to pry the pin out. I'm using my Pilates ab muscles, and voila! The pin came out. Okay, since the whole idea was to check the motor, I put the gearbox back up tight where it should be. Now that I have access to it, because the step's out of the way, I'll just take the motor off, which is 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 10mm socket. And whoa, long one. At least that's what the girl on the picnic said. Okay, so 3 bolts out. And as you've probably seen on other ones, remember there's the little gear. It's a vertical shaft here going straight up with a little gear on it that meshes with the gear in the gearbox right here. It goes around and around. So that's just has to be wiggle a little bit to get it out of there. Okay, there it is. Bring it down slowly so I don't lose anything. Oh, that looks nice. Oh, here's my messy garage. Okay, let's put this inside and check it. I don't know, is that in focus? If I can hold it still. There's the inside of the gearbox, and you can rotate the arm around, and it looks good. The teeth are all good. There's plenty of lube on there. Use Kwikee lube. That's the only thing that needs to be in there. So let's go test the motor. Here's the motor out on the now extended steps, and that is the little connector in there that you can put a couple of clips on and apply a 12-volt current to it to see if the motor works. It doesn't matter positive or negative either side, because you just reverse the polarity to reverse the direction of the motor. So we'll go in here and see what it is. Here's the motor. Here's the little stack of gears, the pinion gear. You can see there's a couple of washers under there. I just put them on a piece of clean kitchen paper. Try not to get any of that grease off of there, because those are going to go back on. They're in good shape. And you can see the shaft is flat on two sides, so that's where, you know, momentum, so it is kind of keyed. So let's see if I can hook up some power. Okay, so I have this little jumper. It's just a wire, you know, alligator clips on each end. And I'll put one on this side, and I'll clip the other end to my positive battery terminal. And then I just made up a clip, had some lamp wire, soldered a clip to it, and just left the other end bare. That way I can just touch it to the other terminal. And I'll do this out there on the house. Okay, moment of truth. There's my negative, or my positive rather. These are 6-volt batteries, so if I come over here, there's my negative. We're going down to the motor. I'm going to touch, see if it spins. Now, it pops a lot, but it doesn't spin. Okay, so this is interesting. When I reverse polarity, it does just fine. And I'm going to do it again. So the motor's okay. Okay, so here's the crazy thing. As you saw, the motor worked both directions, and I put everything back, and I opened the door. Up. After unlocking the door, I open the door, and the steps work fine. I come down to the little, there's the door button, and they go in, and they come back out. So what does that prove? I don't know, but they work now. I'm happy. I don't know, I guess they were just stuck. Maybe by releasing the pressure on it and then putting it back together again, it worked. But I do know the first time I hooked up the electric to test the motor, it didn't turn until I reversed the polarity. So maybe there's something in the motor that just needed to be unsolved. But I did learn how to retract steps when they were, the motor was dead, is to loosen the gearbox slightly. Don't even have to take the nuts off. Just let it come down a little bit. Then you get the pressure off of that pin, pull the cotter pin out, and get the steps out. Okay, happy motoring. Stay safe.